What happens when a top Republican openly defies his own party? Senator Ted Cruz just blasted the FCC for threatening Jimmy Kimmel, calling their tactics mafioso style. This bold move could completely reshape the rules of comedy, media, politics, and the future of free speech in America. Chapter 1. Ted Cruz breaks, GOP ranks over FCC threats. A big political drama just dropped, and it involves Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who's famously tough on conservative values. But this time, he's turning around and taking a stand against his own party's leadership in a very public way. Cruz blasted Brendan Carr, the chair of the Federal Communications Commission, for threatening ABC over something Jimmy Kimmel said on his late-night show. This is unusual because Cruz is known for his GOP loyalty, but now he's throwing down a red flag about government overreach, saying it threatens free speech, something every American should care about. The controversy isn't just about jokes by a comedian. It touches on the powerful question of how far the government should go in controlling what people see and hear on television. Cruz's break with the GOP line is grabbing headlines and sparking debate all over political and media circles. People are asking, when does regulation become censorship? And should the FCC be policing late-night comedy? Chapter 2. What triggered controversy? Let's rewind and see exactly what caused this explosive situation. On Monday night, Jimmy Kimmel took the stage and targeted the MAGA crowd. His monologue focused on how some conservatives were trying to spin the tragic murder of Charlie Kirk, a conservative activist. Kimmel accused them of trying to claim the killer wasn't actually one of them, basically, a political attempt to dodge blame and score points. His tone was sharp and angry, even comparing former President Donald Trump's reaction to the murder to that of a 4-year-old mourning a goldfish. That kind of zinger got conservative viewers mad instantly, with many accusing Kimmel of using a tragedy to attack their political beliefs. This caught the eye of FCC Chair Brendan Carr, who chimed in publicly, calling Kimmel's remarks sick and suggested that the show was misleading viewers. The truth about the killer's motives and political affiliations is still murky, but this controversy quickly spun into a clash far bigger than a simple comedy roast. It escalated into a political and regulatory showdown where the government stepped in, sparking a debate about free speech and the limits of regulatory power. Chapter 3. A threat to ABC and Disney. Things took a serious turn when Brendan Carr issued a blunt warning to ABC and its parent company Disney. He said that if they continue broadcasting Jimmy Kimmel Live, they could face steep penalties, fines, or even worse, the loss of their broadcast licenses. As you probably know, these licenses are crucial. Without them, networks like ABC can't legally operate on public airwaves in many markets. Carr was essentially telling ABC to control its content or face shutting down. This move sent a shockwave through media and political communities because it wasn't just about a late-night show anymore. It was about whether a government agency like the FCC can wield its power to intimidate networks and influence what can be said on TV. Many, including Ted Cruz, saw this move as a form of government bullying, a dangerous example of regulatory overreach. It raised big questions. Can regulators decide which political or comedic voices get to be heard? And what does that mean for freedom of expression in America? The FCC's warning turned this story into a larger national debate about media censorship and governmental authority. Chapter 4. Ted Cruz reacts. Cruz didn't hold back in responding to Carr. On his podcast, he described those FCC tactics as dangerous as hell. He compared Carr's threats to something straight out of Goodfellas, the mafia movie. Think about this. A mob boss walks into a business and says, "Nice place you've got here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it." That's the vibe Cruz said comes from the FCC's approach, a thinly veiled threat disguised as regulation. Cruz, who's been the subject of jokes on Kimmel's show for years, said that even though he doesn't like much of what Kimmel says, no one should be silenced through government force. He made a powerful point about the chilling effect that government threats have. When a regulatory body starts telling networks what they can or cannot broadcast, it sets a frightening precedent where free speech is no longer guaranteed but subject to political convenience. Cruz's vivid mafia analogy struck a chord and sharpened the discussion, making it clear that this was more than a typical partisan squabble. It's a warning about protecting the fundamental American right of free expression. Chapter 5. Cruz's warning. The core of Cruz's message is a chilling warning to conservatives and political watchers. He said while conservatives might enjoy seeing Kimmel's show face consequences, using government regulatory power this way is a double-edged sword. Cruz warned, bluntly and seriously, if Democrats return to power, they will weaponize these tactics to shut us down. That means not just comedians, but conservative voices in media, podcasts, and even news outlets could face the same harsh government pressure. Cruz stressed how important it is to defend free speech rights for all sides, because once the government starts picking winners and losers in political speech, nobody is safe, not on the left, not on the right. His somber warning sparked heated conversations among Republicans, Democrats, legal experts, and free speech advocates about the limits of government intervention in the media and the risks of unchecked regulatory power. This is about more than politics. It's about the future of democracy in America. Because when the government controls speech, it controls power. Cruz's stance is a call to protect speech rights before it's too late. Chapter 6. Kimmel's show taken off air, right after FCC chair. Brendan Carr's very public threats, ABC and several affiliates pulled Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely. This was a bold move, showing just how seriously the network took the FCC warning. It's rare for a major show to be yanked like this, and it sent a strong message that government pressure can lead to real consequences for broadcasters. ABC's decision sparked intense debate across the country. Ted Cruz weighed in by saying he was glad the controversial show was suspended, but made it very clear that how it happened set a dangerous example. Cruz stressed the difference between facing consequences for speech and being silenced by government threats. This moment highlights a critical balance. Networks do have responsibility for their content, but government intimidation crosses a line into censorship territory. This incident put the spotlight on the fine line media companies must walk between editorial freedom and regulatory compliance in today's charged political environment. Chapter 7. Trump backs FCC chair, Cruz stands alone. This controversy uncovered some deep divisions within the Republican Party. On one side, Senator Ted Cruz stood alone in publicly criticizing the FCC chair, Brendan Carr's tactics. He warned about the dangers of government overreach and defended free speech principles, even if that means defending someone like Jimmy Kimmel, who consistently mocks conservatives. Cruz is clearly positioning himself as a free speech advocate, pushing back against some of his own party's mainstream elements. On the other side, former President Donald Trump threw his support behind Brendan Carr. Trump praised Carr, calling him a true American patriot for standing up to Kimmel and ABC. His backing signaled alignment with the faction of the GOP that favors strong attacks on media outlets perceived as critical or hostile to conservative values. This public split reveals just how fractured the GOP has become over media strategy and free speech issues. Trump and Cruz, both powerful voices, offer competing visions of how conservatives should engage with the press and regulatory authorities. One favors confrontation and control, the other principles of speech freedom. This tug-of-war has made the Kimmel FCC dispute even more electric within political circles. Chapter 8. What's next? So where does this leave us? The showdown between Ted Cruz and FCC chair Brendan Carr is far from over, and the free speech debate it has ignited shows no signs of cooling down anytime soon. Cruz's warnings about government power and the FCC's expanding reach ring loudly as many worry about the future of political discourse in this country. Broadcasters, comedians, politicians, and viewers are all watching closely. The key questions are, will the FCC back off from heavy-handed regulation, or will this become the new normal, with political censorship increasingly shaping what can be said on air? What will this controversy mean for late-night comedy, political commentary, and the general freedom to criticize and debate? For many, this is now a defining test of free speech in America. Media independence appears vulnerable, and every new step in this battle is being watched not just in Washington, but across the country. It's an ongoing story that forces us all to ask, what limits should there be on speech, and who should decide them? As this unfolds, the stakes for democracy and the culture of open dialogue have never been higher. What do you think? Was Cruz right to defend free speech, or should networks be held responsible for controversial content? Comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for all the latest updates on media, politics, and viral controversies.